Asetoa Pilisi, who is a New Zealand-born Niue Samoan and currently works in the Future Students team at the Auckland University of Technology. He has worked with Pacifica Youth in Auckland, the Pacific and Western Sydney at various times in the last 15 years. He's also a retired American football player who is now an avid couch commentator of all things sports. He's passionate about Niue language and culture, Samoa dance, and is involved in various community initiatives across Auckland, Aotearoa, New Zealand. And we also have with Sam, we've got Ioane, Aleke Whaawae. Ioane was born in Niue, but grew up mainly in Aotearoa, New Zealand. He's currently working full-time as a learning advisor of Pacific at Unitech Institute of Technology and as a lecturer of Angahau Niue language at Manukau Institute of Technology. He's also a former journalist and broadcaster, a recipient of Creative New Zealand Arts Council Pacific Heritage Artist Award and a University of Auckland Arts and Cultural Blues Award for his outstanding services and contribution to Rangahau Niue language and culture in Aotearoa, and also at an international capacity. And the paper that they're presenting today is Decolonizing the Noble Savage from Savage Island. So take it away from Waikato. Yeah. I'll mute myself and then you guys can unmute yourselves. Have tight.
This project was created by and for New Zealand-born Niue men to engage in Niue language and culture. Ihumātao was chosen as our site to perform our Takalo for its significance culturally and spiritually. Language loss and cultural disconnection is a reality for many New Zealand-born Niue people, but our story doesn't end there. Our Takalo is our war cry seeking to reclaim sovereignty over our language, as even though we live outside of Niue, we yearn to belong. Koe wangahau Niue, koe ase fua he tangata Niue. Rewriting our story has just begun.
Monu tu tangaloa. Monu siton. Monu whakaalo whalai. Mahakia kiam tūruosi. And that video is a Takalo project that was filmed at Ihumātao, performed by Niue men of different backgrounds and different age groups. And the discussion that we're aiming today is to unpack the savage from Savage Island. Niue was known by indigenous names such as Motu Sefua, Nukutu Taha, Nukutu Wea, and Whakahoa Motu. But the landing of Captain Cook on 20th of June 1774, he described and named Niue Savage Island. He encountered and experienced the aggressive and fierce look of warriors with their bodies smeared in black from charcoal and their scarlet dye of fusi hula hula banana juice on their teeth, performing the Takalo, or a challenge, or a war dance. He thought of them as savages or cannibals. And over the colonial period, right up to this very day, this savage imagery continues to be portrayed in different forms in the way how we decolonize Savage Island. A resident commissioner by the name of Hector Larson was murdered in Niue in 1953. Also plays in a major part of being savages. We see the many tangata Niue decolonizing the savageness through the printing of t-shirts with the name Savage Island on them and other merchandises as we live in diaspora. And also creating more opportunities for more creative work through diaspora. I'll hand it over to Sam.
So when we start to consider, I guess, the noble savage, or the savage from Savage Island, and we come up to present day, we start to consider perhaps what are the identities associated with being a modern Niue man, a Niue man in 2021. And we start to look at perhaps a comparison between the homeland, which is Niue, and the roles for men there are very easy to see. We see across the Ecclesia, which is the church, we see various roles that fathers, brothers, sons may fill, and then those duties are then fulfilled in the church. The same as when we look across the maanga, which is the village, the mangawhaua, which is the family. It's very easy for Niue men in Niue to see visible roles, be it formal or informal, and then fill into the duties associated with those roles. And then connected to that is that obviously living in Niue affords them easy access to the sea, going fishing, be it every day or very often, or working the land. And so Niue men in Niue have lots of opportunities to identify and connect with Niue identities, and then also bring that to fruition and express that. Then when we start to consider the Niue men in the diaspora, in particular New Zealand, which the large bulk of Niue population globally lives, the same is not so. The landscape is not equal, and especially for Niue men, if you're not involved in church or village structures here, then we start to find ourselves perhaps looking for roles to fall within or to take on. And so when we consider that, when we look at our Pacific cousins, for males there may be various identity markers or spaces where our Pacific cousins can express themselves. Be it for Samoans, they have the malofi or the tatau, where they can express their Samoan maleness. We have Tongans and other cultures that participate in kava and come together in those spaces. For the Niue man, it's perhaps also it's not the same. We don't have readily available spaces in New Zealand to express ourselves. And I guess part of our journey through this project is identifying and acknowledging that in the absence of some of these spaces or identity markers, what is quite apparent is the strong savage narrative, which whilst was given to us when Captain Cook tried to land many years ago, it still exists today in the hearts and minds of some of our people. And for our men in particular, in search of an identity, the savage still exists somehow. And then when we look to sort of the academic literature about Niue men, it's very thin, and one that sticks out currently is one of the sole pieces that we were able to find looks at drinking attitudes, and looks at also that savageness associated with drinking. And so we find it a little bit problematic, and we perhaps find that maybe Niue men are in search of an identity, albeit we still have this hangover of the savageness there. Which leads us to this project, which briefly was shown in the video, the 30-second video earlier, which I will unpack now. So last year, from idea to performance, it was about an 8-week project, which we decided for many of us, myself and Io was our cultural advisor, and we had other friends who we exist as Niue men in Auckland, and many of us got to Niue and travel to other places, and we see perhaps a little bit of a disconnect in trying to find who we are as Niue men. And so the idea was for us to use the Takalo as a vehicle to bring Niue men together, and that was an 8-week journey. So this was created for and by New Zealand born or raised men, and to us it was around fronting language loss and cultural disconnection head on, with a strengths-based approach. For us, it was all about come as you are a Niuean enough, and learning to eliminate this idea of sorry. And so what we found out in lots of our practices or sort of gatherings was that Niue men would introduce themselves and then come with this idea of, oh, sorry, I don't speak the language, or sorry, I'm not going to introduce myself, or sorry, I don't know a few things. And we really push back to go, you don't need to say sorry, we need to eliminate that from our vocabulary. You are enough. And if you look around the room, we're all saying sorry. Like, language loss is rampant across our community, and we have grandfathers, we have fathers, we have brothers, we have sons that are all on a journey with the language. And so we wanted to create a cultural classroom, which Tongan Academic Edmund Whihoko used in terms of whaikawa. And so we wanted to normalize the language and the customs. We always had a Niuean prayer, a liongi at the beginning, at the end of our practices. We try to use as much vocab as possible to normalize that just around our ears. And we just wanted to make the space, albeit in urban Auckland, as Niuean as possible. And so another feature of the project that I'll finish off with and then pass on to Io was we wanted to decolonize this idea of us and them. We deliberately went to Ihu Mātau, our Māori cousins, our Polynesian relatives. We wanted to make a connection there, and they were very very graceful and loving with their space, with their love and their time. They basically gave us free rein to go and do what we wanted to do, and they blessed us with beautiful prayers. They greeted us and they farewelled us, and it was and they basically said, "Oh, you're the first Pacific group to come here." And we were just like, wow. And they said, like many years ago, our Polynesian our ancestors, this was one of the first sites that they came, was through Ihu Mātau. And so for us, it was really powerful for us to connect that together, but also connect that into the current day, knowing that Ihu Mātau has fought the good fight, so to speak, which is still going on, associated with land rights and sovereignty. We have a fight ourselves in terms of trying to find ourselves, and also trying to claim some sovereignty over our language as well. And so that was powerful for us. And then the last thing in regards to dismantling these boundaries of us and them was that perhaps like lots of diasporic communities, there can be notions of people, tensions or challenges between the communities at home and the communities abroad. And so for this project, whilst all the dancers and the people organising this were based in Auckland, New Zealand, we reached out to a composer, an asafo, Lavea Puheke, who's resident in Niue and is very alive in his practice of composing songs, Takalos, and we reached out to him and we wanted to utilise someone in Niue and still keep that umbilical cord back to Niue and know that whilst we have we have lots of challenges here, we don't want to disconnect ourselves and just make it all about us. And we wanted to dismantle this idea of us and them, and that this project is just about us. It's just about us as much as it is about them as well, and it's about us in its totality as opposed to the boundaries that we put into place when we start fighting over various things. And so that's a summary of the project, and then I'll hand it over to Io to summarise perhaps where we want to look forward.
Yeah, as an ongoing offset from this project, we're looking at things like the biannual Niue Arts Festival to deconstruct, and by composing new songs and writing up new takalos and other art forms of Niue, and also getting to collaborate and work more with those people who still reside in Niue, or what we know as a tufunga langi tuaua. In contrast to us, the tufunga langi tuataha, who reside in diaspora. And also to get more publications around some more academic work as part of the decolonising the Savage Island, and to maintain that mana that we have as Niue men or tangata Niue, living on Niue and living in diaspora. Whakawela.
That's us.
Whakaawe to you both. Suala pule Asetoa Sam and Ioane, thank you so much for your presentation and sharing the initiatives with us here. Much appreciated. Our next presenter is Deborah Lee Talbot from Deakin University, and she is going to present her paper, An Untidy Collection with Pins and Things